Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Unscripted, an Unchained RPG review. I am Game Master Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, making a return to my coverage of Knave 2nd Edition. If you saw my last video, you saw that I got the physical copy of the book and absolutely enjoying it. It was a great look through of the physical qualities of the book, and I encourage you to go back and check out that video as well. And during the course of that video, I was talking about getting the getting the game rules, which are on two separate pages on two different ends of the book, and just making a photocopy of it, and then double-siding it and doing all of that. There's actually an easier way. All right, when you purchase Knave 2nd Edition. When you get the PDF versions of it, there are two different PDF versions of it, and one of them is kind of like an extended display. It's actually in this format where you get 2 pages on one, and I'm just going to show that to you really quickly how you can make this this player handout that is just a quick capture of all of the rules they could possibly need. So I'm just going to flip here, and as you can see here, I already have it pre-selected up, right? So this is what you're looking to do. You're looking to print pages 2 and 44. I put it on black and white because there's no color on these pages anyway, so you'll save yourself a little ink there. And then you're going to print on both sides and flip on the short edge. All right, so that's what I'm hoping that it will produce properly. If not, you're going to see it in real time. So I am going to hit print here and see what churns out of my my printer. My printer is going to act like it's not ready, or maybe not. Let's see. I'll probably get an indicator on there. I tend to be getting that for a while now, even though I just put a new ink cartridge in. And here we go. So after I'm done showing that to you, then I will get to the true purpose of this video, and that is to talk about gameplay. And I'm going to be focusing on item slots, wounds, leveling up, and checks. So let's see if we are done, and let's see, yes. So I will go to full screen here. And so here you have the first part, which is abilities, on through to equipment, and then you flip the page over, and now you have traveling and delving and encounters and all whatnots others. So this is really a great thing to do, and you can print this out on, which I would do, is I would print this out on 60 weight paper, which is a really heavy duty paper, and that will give it some, some longevity. That if you're running convention games, you can now hand these, 5 or 6 cards out to the players, and they will last quite some time. So if you're running a full season's worth of conventions, you're handing these out, you're getting them back, at the end, and they're going to last you quite some time. So just a real quick, tip on running live games and, handing out the players. They might be new to the game system, which in most cases they probably will be until some time passes since the completion of the Kickstarter and the fulfillment of the Kickstarter. And so it's just a helpful tip, I hope, for you to create these handouts. It's great for convention play because players like to get things handed to them, in their hands. Very tactile experience, and now they they'll appreciate the fact that you're giving them quick reference rules for them, and then they can jump right into actually playing your game session. So without further ado, let's get to the real point at hand, and that is going to be talking about item slots, wounds, leveling up, and checks. So here we have it. And I'm using that same display, that same PDF display. I've just, enlarged this a bit so that you can see the entire page in one shot. So items, slots, and wounds. So slots. PCs have 10 plus Constitution modifier item slots to their record to record their gear. Most items, including the groups of small items that could fit in one hand, take up one slot. Two-handed items take up 2 slots. 500 coins use a full slot. Doesn't mention armor here, so I will have to delve in a little bit deeper. I would have the players, because when you see damage and wounds later, I will have the players list their items and their slots from the heaviest to the lightest. Now, not that, a slot is a slot is a slot, right? So that's, the point that they're making here in the general rule. But just conceptually, I think that it's important, like, if you're wearing chainmail armor, that should be in your first slot. It's the heaviest thing that you're probably carrying, as opposed to a spear. Now, if you put the spear in slot 1 and the chainmail armor in slot 2, you could certainly do that. And when you take wounds and you have to lose an item slot, it makes more sense to me that the heaviest item is the first item that you'll no longer be able to carry, as opposed to the other items, unless you wanted to do some kind of a trade-off, and then that gets into like a minutia that I wouldn't recommend doing. So I would have my players, list their items in weight order first, and then when it comes time for, the possibility of having to lose an item slot due to damage, then it would be their heaviest item that they're losing. So now we get to damage. So damage a PC receives is subtracted from their hit points. Once their HP reaches 0, each point of damage fills an item slot with the appropriate wound, stabbed, frozen, burned, etc. From the highest slot to the lowest, items in the wound slot must be dropped. So that's what I was talking about. So once you're at -1 hit points, you can no longer bear the weight of your armor, which is probably the heaviest thing that you're carrying, and then go on and so forth. If you're putting a candle in, a single candle in an item slot, that's your first item slot, it doesn't make sense that that's the item you're going to lose first. Direct damage. Direct damage bypasses HP and adds wounds directly. This occurs in situations where a creature's combat skills would not protect them. When falling or attacked unawares, monsters receive triple damage from direct damage, since they do not have item slots. All right, so a player who takes damage from a fall, let's say D6 for a 10-foot fall, that's going to go directly to their wounds, which means it will go directly to their item slots, which is really an interesting thing. It's an interesting concept here. And it doesn't require being at 0 hit points in order for those to affect your HP. Like it's kind of weird, and maybe I'm misreading that. So maybe it'll become clearer if there's a gameplay that that I can either view or read about. But that's how I'm reading that right now. Death. PCs die when all of their slots are filled with wounds. Creatures without slots, like monsters, simply die at 0 hit points. All right, that makes sense. Healing. PCs' HP returns to maximum each morning, as long as they slept for 2 watches and ate a meal the night before. If they are in a safe haven, they also heal 1 wound. Leveling up. Experience points. PCs are awarded 1 experience point for each coin worth of treasure recovered from remote, dangerous locations like dungeons and returned to civilization. Split evenly between all PCs who assisted. If you are using a pre-made dungeon from another RPG that uses copper, silver, electrum, and gold, and platinum coins, then convert the total to gold coins and gain that much XP. At certain XP thresholds, this is leveling up, PCs gain a level, which adds 1 to 3 different ability scores. Sorry. There was no comment in there. Do not reset XP to 0. The 3 scores can be picked by the player or chosen randomly. Each level also allows the player to re-roll the PC's HP maximum using 1 additional D6. If the roll total is not greater than their last maximum, add 1 point to the last maximum. Okay, so let's say you rolled, your first level character, and you're rolling a D6 for hit points, and you rolled a 4. Now you're second level. So not only are you going to roll your second level D6, but you're also able to re-roll your first level D6 if you didn't have maximum already. Again, that's how I'm reading this. So you have a chance of really walking away at second level with 12 hit points overall, regardless of what you started with at level 1. Now, if you don't beat your level 1, you will gain 1 point above what you previously rolled. So let's say you previously rolled a 4. Now you would have 5 hit points for first level, and then whatever you rolled for second level. And I guess you do it so on and so on. So you always get to re-roll your previous level's roll. If you exceed it, then you have it. If you did not exceed it, you just get 1 point above for it. I kind of like that system. That's a pretty cool system. Checks. When a creature attempts something risky, they make a check by rolling a d20 and adding 1 of their ability scores. If their total meets or exceeds a target number set by the GM, they succeed. If a creature doesn't have ability scores, the GM can use its level, half its level, or 0 based on how good it is at the task. GMs should not call for checks for situations that could be solved with critical thinking. Some actions may be impossible unless the PC has the proper tools or careers. Setting the target number. Starting with 11 and then adding a difficulty rating from 0 to 10, 5 by default. If the check is against another creature, the difficulty rating is equal to their relevant ability score or level. In an attack, the difficulty is the defender's armor points. The target number of 11 plus AP is called armor class. Reversing checks. It is possible to have players do all of the rolling by reversing checks that the GM usually makes. Example, a goblin trying to strike a PC could add its level to a d20 trying to hit the PC's armor class, which is an 11 plus the PC's armor points. Or, to reverse the roll, the PC could add their armor points to a d20, aiming for the target number of 11 plus the goblin's level. So what I get from that is that you're having the player roll his or her armor check to see if the goblin hit them. And so it's allowing the players to do all of the rolls, their own attack rolls and their defense rolls, rather than the game master rolling for the goblin, in this case, against the player. I'm not quite sure I'm I'm not quite sure I like that. That's an interesting thing, and probably subject to a nice debate as to, if this system allows for the player to make all of the rolls. Um, that's interesting. That really is interesting to me. Um, and you know, this is unscripted and unchained, right? So I am reading this for the first time and trying to wrap my head around it. I mean, I pretty much think I understand reversing checks. Um, I would love to have a discussion on whether or not this is, a good dynamic to use at your table. Um, yeah, it's certainly a good debate to have. So, modifiers. The GM can apply a -5 penalty for each disadvantage and a +5 bonus for each advantage that the rolling player has on the check. A related career, a clever approach, extra time, the right tools, etc. would apply. Social checks. In most cases, the outcome of social interactions can be resolved with common sense and role playing. But in a risky situation, the GM can call for a check. These are made using the PC's charisma versus the NPC's wisdom or charisma, depending on the context. Modifiers may be applied based on the target's disposition and relationship to the PC, fractional or moral alignment, and the PC's factional or moral alignment, the PC's phrasing, bribes, threats, etc. Lord, no comment there on the reverse checks, but I guess that would apply for this for all checks. Lore checks. Checks are not necessary for PCs to recall lore. PCs automatically know all common knowledge and any specialized knowledge covered by their careers. Any other knowledge must be discovered in game, and I really like that. What it does is, by having that, is that the player character's experience becomes their knowledge base. And this is something that I've been talking about for well over a year. And that is the separation between the player and his or her meta knowledge of the game or of creatures in the game or the game world and their character's knowledge. And their character's knowledge, particularly if they're only starting as first or even 0 level characters, their knowledge is going to be very, very limited, all right, to just what they have from their own backgrounds. And you've probably heard my videos many, many times where I say a first level character, I always start first level characters in my games as being as young as they possibly can for their race class combination. All right. So if you're an elf and let's say you're an elf fighter, you're going to be 115, right? Which is probably the equivalent of like a 16-year-old human, let's say. And you're coming from a small town, and your parents were the local Boyer and Fletcher, right? So you would have some knowledge of creating bows or creating arrows, and that is you would know your immediate general area around your village, and that is the full extent of your knowledge that is considered common knowledge for that area. So you would know about wolves, and you would know about other creatures that tend to be in the random encounter chart for that particular terrain and such in the immediate area of your village, let's say, and nothing more. And that's the whole point of adventuring. Adventuring isn't just to go out there and kill things and gather treasure. It's to go out into the world and learn about the world. It's to explore. And exploration isn't just travel. exploration is the gathering of new knowledge. And so that's what I really like about what this here reinforces, is that same concept. Any other knowledge must be discovered in game. That is so key to players developing their characters as a separate entity from themselves. Search checks. Hidden things are either automatically discovered after enough time is spent searching, usually 10 minutes for dungeon rooms, or a full watch for wilderness hexes, or they can be found without taking in-game actions. Obvious features of an area should be described right away to PCs, and details should be described as players ask questions and investigate. All right, so you're not doing like checks for secret doors or whatnot. Your players are just going to linger around and look in those general areas for a significant amount of time, let's say, in order to find that secret door if it is present. Again, I'm not quite sure I like this either, because your players will always have their characters spend 10 minutes in every single room. And without making any rolls, I mean, otherwise, I would certainly have a random encounter occur in that situation because they're standing around for 10 minutes. Let's say they are in a lair complex of goblins. Let's keep on the goblins thing. After 10 minutes, the goblins are probably going to end up passing by or through this room, at some point during that 10-minute time that you're just standing there searching around the room. So I would certainly want to make the dungeon area dynamic and for it to make sense that way. So so there you have it, between items, item slots and wounds, leveling up, and making checks. You can see that there's some things here that are very interesting, and some things that even I myself would like to get some clarification on and make sure that I'm reading them the correct way. So if you're much more familiar with it than then please feel free to jump there in the comments section and point out, hey, this is how I read it, or this is how Ben Milton explained it, or here's a gameplay breakdown where it describes that. I'm certainly going to look into your equipment slots and see how those are filled, because I'm looking here on the quick start rules or the quick reference rules under equipment, and it's not getting to your actual slots. It's talking about equipment item slots. It doesn't go into detail of how you organize your item slots, at least on these 2 pages. So I need some clarification on that. I think that I would certainly have a house rule, not homebrew, because it's probably not changing anything, but a house rule that you list your heaviest items first, and those are the first items that you can no longer carry when taking those wounds. But that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I welcome all comments in there. If you have anything to point out that I misread, please feel free to jump in there and say so. And direct me to any other source where I can get those clarifications. I appreciate that. Hey, Ben Milton is welcome to come in here and say, hey, you read this wrong, and please feel free to do so. I certainly welcome that as well. And it's a great little game. I really enjoy reading through it, and you can see that there are some systems in here that are interesting and possibly cause for some debate over. And that's what I like the most about looking at looking at a variety of systems, is that you come across these elements that really do stand out. So I'm going to ignore my phone. Sorry about that. And so I look forward to seeing you on a gaming screen sometime soon, and at a convention sometime in the near future. And I'm going to wrap this up so you're not dealing with that telephone call. So you all have a great one. Take care.